Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us for today's session. My name is Berit Johannesson and I'm here with Tony Ruth today. Today we'll be going over 2016. We'll talk through what occurred and all the exciting releases that we had, but also what to expect in 2017. We do have some announcements here. The first one is that we now have a new Zerion Academy. So Zerion Academy hosts all the courses, all webinar sessions that we have. And if you participate in any certification, you'll go through the Zerion Academy. So this is brand new. We started at the end of 2016 with some of our certification participants. And moving forward, everybody who goes through the certification as well as goes through any Kickstart or onboarding will have a login to Zerion Academy. In this presentation, you'll see that I do have some underlined text here. So these are all links. And after today's session, in the next 48 hours, I will send you a PDF with all these links included, as well as a recording from today's session if you want to listen to it later on. So next up, we do have a January session of Form Builder certification. Now, if you've read about our certification program before, you may recall that it was a total of 8 hours and it was 2 4-hour sessions. In 2017, we were revamping a little bit. We've changed some of the content, and we actually have it so it's 3 2-hour sessions. So our next session will be on January 24th, 25th, and 26th from 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to access and to sign up for the certification course, I've provided the link here, but you can also go to ZerionSoftware.com and go under Learn More, and you'll see a button that says Get Certified, and you'll see the sign up page there, as well as additional details on the certification process. Speaking of ZerionSoftware.com, if you haven't checked it out yet, we've updated the website. Also coming up, we have our webinar. So on the 24th, we have a webinar hosted and presented by Ryan Coleman, and he'll be talking about launching beyond data collection. So a lot of what Tony is going to talk about today is what to expect in 2017. And Ryan will give you actual examples and why it's important to think beyond data collection. Then on February 1st, we have the 5 fundamentals of successful form building. So if anyone's new to form building, that's a great webinar to go to. And the last one listed here is our a special topic webinar on our 4 useful conditional value techniques. So for those individuals who have been building forms and using our smart controls, John is going to be presenting on 4 techniques that you may not be aware of with the condition values that can really impact your projects. And at this point, Tony, go ahead. The show is yours.
Thanks, Berit. Appreciate the introduction and highlighting some of the new things changing as well as the upcoming events that we have. As you've mentioned, I want to take some time this morning to walk through 2016 in review. I promise it'll be short, much more abbreviated than years past. We've heard the comments and want to focus a lot more on the key goals and objectives for 2017, show you what you have to look forward to, and talk a little bit about shaping the future of Zerion Web Services. As you've seen in the last couple of months, we've been generating a lot of noise about a transition phase that we're going through to basically expand beyond where we started. Data collection is a great foundation, and we realize that there's gaps that we can help fill. And so, mostly we'll be talking about shaping the future of those gaps and how we can help solve some problems. We'll end with a little bit of Q&A, and I hope you guys all enjoy this. So to dive in, I just want to recap 2016 in review. There's a number of things that went out the door that were big deals, but maybe weren't highlighted. So just want to take a minute or two to walk through these and make sure everyone's aware. We spent some time, actually considerable amount of time, on API enhancements, not only to improve the software that everybody uses day to day, but also to improve the integration experience. Make it more powerful for integrators to do things that you could do within the interface. So the most notable, I would think, are actually the ability to copy records, forms, and option lists all through the API. that's something that will save integrators a ton of time if an existing resource is there. Maybe you just need to work with it a little bit or make slight modifications. You don't have to build the whole resource from scratch again. You can just copy an existing. So really it helps with the efficiency of using the software from an integration standpoint, and it also helped us develop the new form builder and other interfaces that you'll use day to day. During this, we found some performance problems that we naturally wanted to take care of. We feel it's important to keep the user experience as high as running as efficiently as it possibly can. And so, spending time in performance is not anything that you can see from an interface standpoint, but you feel it day in and day out when you work with the application. And even if it's large lists or large forms, the application is still responsive and feels like it's moving quickly. The last piece to highlight on the API side is the consistency between the post data output. For a long time, the data format coming out of the post was different from the API response. So you'll find if you're setting up post configurations, there's a new format that you can pick, and that data format matches the API response exactly. So lots of fun stuff on the API side. Check it out in the details in the documents if you haven't seen it yet, and feel free to ask any questions. The other big big milestone in 2016 was actually refreshing the form builder. It's something that we spent a lot of time thinking about it, and ultimately, after about a year and a half of planning and lots of development, we're happy to present the new form builder. I'm sure all of you have seen that and started working with it. So we're really, really excited that was a big milestone we met in 2016. Android feature equality is something that we put emphasis on in 2016 and will continue to emphasize in 2017. The most notable updates were the drawing widget, the ability to copy records on the device, and also introducing the timer widget, the temperature widget, and supporting URL actions. So the ability to call the iForm client from third-party applications or other web pages was something the iOS client had and Android was lacking. And we squashed a lot of bugs. There's plenty of performance and other straggler bugs that have been laying around, and we were able to put a big dent in that. The other thing too, if you missed it, was the feature frenzy winner, which was basically to upgrade the smart table search, and that is available in both the iOS and Android clients. Really, what that allowed folks to do is to just streamline the use of smart table search, rather than having to key in the value that that you were looking to find. The user was presented with a list of available options, and you could use a search to dwindle that. And the last piece that we really spent time and energy on in 2016 was the foundation for the future, or what I'm referring to as the Zerion Foundation. So as we move into what we're working on in 2017, you'll start to see what this foundation looks like, and hope everyone's as excited as I am to see it as I am to talk about it. So that's all the time I'm going to spend on 2016 in review. I do want to take a minute to talk a little bit about why we're doing these things. So I'm about to show you what we've done. The main thing is that the reason we've done these is because we've been able to work closely with partners and customers through projects and even just troubleshooting problems that you faced. And we realized that we thought certain things were solved for. Data manipulation, changing the shape of the data so you can feed it into a display or a document. We believed all these things were solved for, and if we focused on the data collection, then we could play a key role in this mobile puzzle. We learned though through various interactions and years of experiences that these things aren't quite solved. So just want to lay it out there that through working with everybody, we were able to learn about these things that maybe weren't done as well as they could be, and that's why we've tackled the things that we have. Well, then let's go ahead and jump into 2017, since I know that's what we're all excited to learn more about. Here's an agenda. I'm going to walk through each one of these in more detail. The reason Android feature equality is actually listed first is because we've listened, we've heard, as Android has gotten more popular and it's being deployed more broadly across the globe, we're finding that these deficiencies or the inequalities between Android and iOS is really frustrating for those folks deploying projects on both platforms. And so we want to take this as a priority to really minimize the differences there wherever we can, and really make sure that Android is on par with iOS. It's most notable just because it's I think it's probably the most frustrating piece out there for our existing users. I'm going to also walk through what we call data flow automation, some solutions we built for reports as well as custom documents. Another thing is going to be more granular permissions, so being able to define really what a user has access to rather than kind of identifying them as a basic, an admin, or a form builder. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our focus on building a common interface, something that's familiar between all of these different tools and solutions we're building. And we'll end with an emphasis on building a transparent roadmap, not only for our team to work from, but for US customers and prospects to see what we're working on and to see the status or the state of that. So just to dig a little bit more deeper into Android feature equality, these are the things we wanted to highlight. The encrypted database option is basically the equivalent of what you see in iForm ES, with a heavy focus on security. This is one thing that we feel is really important to have in place, and we are actively working on making the iForm client have the same feature set and security set as the iOS does. This includes the support for field level encryption. And if any of these features are things you're not familiar with, let us know. We can shoot you a link to documentation or more info. We also want to bring the special functionality that you find through the reference IDs into the Android client. This would include restricting the time that a form can be filled out, or even different features which improve the experience, like restricting whether a user can take a picture with a camera or pick from the library. So those things will spend time and energy, bringing those same features in iOS into Android. And for the global teams out there, localizing the error messages, it's certainly important when something goes wrong for the user to be able to interpret the message. And right now we know that that does cause problems and confusion for globally distributed teams when working with Android. The map view is also another big target that we're focusing on, and really trying to bring the same feature set, showing current location, being able to do the split screen between the record and the map itself on the device, and just really improve that experience across the board. So a few more main focuses for the Android feature equality: supporting local attachments, basically expanding the types of files that we can support. Currently it's PDF. Being able to do audio and video is something that keeps bubbling up between our team as well as the community. So we'll emphasize bringing that in as well. JavaScript discrepancies, I know, have troubled a number of folks. So again, listening to those issues or those troubles in the field that you face when function doesn't quite respond the same way on iOS as it does on Android, and spending time to understand why that happens. In addition to solving for those problems, really trying to make sure that the performance is as good as it can be or is always improving. The devices that are coming out are more powerful and more capable. It's not an excuse for actually making the software efficient and run very well. So that goes hand in hand with squashing bugs and basically cleaning up the code just to make sure that we're not building more technical debt than we need to, and that user issues are being resolved as quickly as they can be. That's pretty much the main focus for Android feature equality. And so there's a lot to show here. I want to just jump into data flow automation. Again, this is something that we spent time and energy building a software application to basically take iForm Builder data and start making it a little bit more useful. We found that most forms have tons of information, and from that tons of information, you actually want to break it down and start to make a little bit of sense out of it. So data flow automation's whole purpose is to put the data to work, to allow you to basically take information from one-to-many sources and turn it into action items. So with the header slide out of the way, I want to just transition into what does this look like? Maybe what does data flow automation do for me? I'll talk through what this screenshot shows, and this is basically what we would refer to as a data flow. It has two entry points, and the entry points are actually hooked to two different forms. One is for incoming inventory. The other one is for inventory that's being expensed. So basically, you have two teams in the field, one counting stuff coming in, one counting stuff going out. And all of their submissions are basically being routed through these two different setups. So we're able to receive this information, and because it doesn't quite fit the shape that we're in, or we actually want to combine some details to know, okay, the fuel that just came in for this particular region, we have to kind of categorize and quantify that. So just to kind of bring this back together around what this description is showing, data comes into this component here, which is called a webhook. It's then passed to the storage facility. From here, it actually goes down this leg, and we do a little bit of transformation to combine two fields. This screen here actually shows how that transformation is achieved. It's all JavaScript, so for those folks who are familiar with building forms, you should actually be very comfortable with building data flow setups. So what we are showing is actually creating a new value called region count, and region count is actually taking two distinct values from the form data and combining them together with a double hyphen in between. And again, the point here is that we actually want to look at a region and a particular item and combine them together, so we're not just looking at the number of batteries or the amount of fuel that has come in across the board. We want to break it down by region. So to bounce back out to the data flow, again, we've received our data, we've passed it to this main storage facility. It runs down this side here. It has the new field added that I just showed, and then basically it passes on to a step where we actually do some aggregation. And so the main thing is that we want to crunch this 315 records down into a summary before we actually start feeding it into the display. So from this step where we just showed the transformation between the item and the region, we're going to go into the aggregation step.
So Tony, can we just take a step back, and can you remind people what the end goal was and why you turned to data flow automation for this to meet the end goal?
Sure. The end goal is basically to be able to track inventory. So we're trying to understand what we have coming in and what we have going out, and then be able to order new inventory based on certain thresholds that we reach. So the intent here is that we have stuff coming in and coming out all the time, and we want to know when we have to make new orders. This is the main problem that we're trying to solve here.
Great, thank you.
Sure thing. So basically, to be able to solve this problem, we need to know what we have on hand as well as what we have expensed. This step right here, which is performing the aggregation, is helping us understand what we have received. And so going back into it, we actually are now taking the data, which has, let's say, 50 fields to begin with, and kind of crunching it down to just a number of fields that we actually care about. So down here, the last particular value that you see is called region count, and it's what we made in the previous step. It tells us that we have AA batteries for region 1, and it's related to a barcode and has some information about how many batteries are inside, all related to the barcode. So what you can see is that as we take this raw data, we're starting to process it and to actually make sense of it before we feed it into our display. And it allows the display to react quickly and to not have to deal with a lot of business logic. We deal with the business logic problems inside of data flow automation. So again, this is the part where we actually take this data, do the transformation, it passes into this step, and then what we get from this step before it goes into the display is actually the batteries for region 1, and it shows us that we have 300 of them. So again, that may be from 50 records that have come through, and we've actually been able to identify what that item was, how many were in there, and then basically sum those over the course of all those records. And just some things that help you understand a little bit more about how you're using the data flow services and kind of where things are happening most frequently. We do have some built-in analytics to show. So this is basically showing you the volume of transactions through this data flow over time, and we can break it down on a daily, weekly, monthly, or annual schedule. So I want to take a minute to pause there because we're going to transition into reports, which is basically the component here that you see. So after we've taken all this raw data and we've crunched it down and turned it into useful information, we now need to display it and start making some decisions based on that. So are there any questions, Barrett, before we step into reports?
Not so much questions, but I do want to mention to everybody who's sitting on the call and you're looking at this and you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I get started using this? Or we already have access to data flow automation. How do I start learning about it? For anybody who is going to start using data flow automation, we do have an onboarding process, which includes training and includes having check-in calls to make sure projects are going smoothly, as well as you have access to a technical coach for your first workflow, so that they can consult with you and talk through your project, so that you are able to build your data flow and build your workflow. So I wanted to make sure people knew that we do have support tools in place to assist people with this part of the process and the other parts of Zerion. Additionally, if this is something that you want our team to build out for you, we can do that too. So I just wanted to mention that. And now, Tony, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Barrett. So the main intent here is that we understood that this information needed to be processed first, or was better served processed before it landed into a reporting environment. If that happened first, then it made visualization much cleaner, less logic and formulas had to be written, and overall the experience was much smoother. So the intent of reports is to basically unlock the value of this information after we've processed it down and turned it into useful information. Let's show that and let people make quick decisions based on what they can see, rather than trying to digest raw data themselves. And for this, we actually leverage the market-leading partners to basically quickly stand this up and to provide a seamless experience between the field data that you collect all the way to the dashboards and the reports that you view. So we've partnered with some of the best the best software out there, and we're able to provide these comprehensive reports, which take the data that goes through data flow automation and turns it into useful displays. And I'm just going to tab through a number of these things just to show you what's possible. We have your very common pie charts, even pivot tables that you can display, and this dashboard is able to accommodate one-to-many. It's really one of those things where you can configure it to match the needs that your business has. Here we have some data basically shown in your typical line charts, as well as your your bar charts here. So we have basically the same data visualized in different formats, and for the sake of this demonstration, they're on separate slides, but this is actually on what you would call a single dashboard. And down below, we actually have a table view, which most of you are used to seeing inside of the iForm Builder application. We're able to do a little bit more, such as conditional formatting. Here you can see that we actually have a status field that has been added, and this has some conditional formatting based on the value that it finds. It'll show red or green or sometimes yellow, depending on the status that that is set there. So the main thing is that once the data has been crunched down and made into useful numbers or values, we're able to stand these displays up really quickly. The dashboards can be shared. They can be made public. They could be shared, basically between a select group of users based on their email address, or you can keep them private and require folks to have to log in using their Zerion credentials in order to see these things. Overall, it's a very robust solution. There's lots that we can do, and it complements the data flow automation piece very well. So I'm going to pause just a minute before we jump into the next piece, which is actually the custom documents part of this. Are there any questions?
So, Tony, I started to answer this question, but maybe it's best for everybody to hear your response for this. For individuals and organizations that may be using other dashboard tools, or maybe even maybe using Excel? Like, why does it make sense for them to use Zerion reports and data flow automation for their projects?
I'll start with the second part, actually. So if you're using Excel, it makes a lot of sense to use Zerion reports because, effectively you're mimicking the functions and the feature set of Excel on a cloud software. And so data is easily moved from, cloud software to cloud software. I think where lots of folks have trouble is basically moving data from cloud software down to a local PC to work on, Excel spreadsheets or charts or pivot tables there. And then ultimately, whatever work is done is kind of isolated to that one PC. You have to share the file or email it or do something with that. So really, anybody using Excel is a great candidate to leverage the power of Zerion reports as well as data flow automation to really maximize the effectiveness and the shareability of the information. To answer the second part of that, for anybody who has existing dashboard or display software that they use, data flow automation is designed to hook into existing software as well as feed our tight integrations. For example, if you have a database that you're running in-house, we do have connections available in data flow automation to feed those databases. We understood through lots of experience and conversations that not everybody has those or are not able to maximize the effectiveness of it. So we realize that even if you do have those systems, you may find value in using Zerion reports, especially as new business opportunities and problems present themselves. It's a tool set that you can use to do this without having a database admin or a software designer get involved. Does that help?
Yep, that was wonderful. One other question that came in, Tony, is about where the data is stored. So to be specific, they're asking, is data in Zerion reports stored in the US? We need all our data to be stored in EU?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're constantly evaluating the needs of clients, and data sovereignty is a big issue, especially with changes in legislation. So for EU specific questions, I would say it's something we can have a conversation around and we can solve. We do leverage Zoho as a technology partner for reports. So I think in order to solve for region-based issues, we'll just have to get together and talk through it a little bit more. So we realize that reports and dashboards are great. They help us make insightful decisions. There's another need that always presents itself, or I would say has presented itself many times over the last few years, and it's being able to make a hard copy. For compliance reasons or for various other regulatory purposes, taking the data from the field, turning it into a PDF or some hard copy that you could produce if asked several years later, was a need that several groups have faced. So again, we looked around and we tried to partner with some of the best of breed out there to produce a document solution. Basically, what we have is the ability to take the data that's passed through data flow automation and turn it into hard copy outputs in various different formats. And we have a lot of flexibility to actually design the output to match whatever the requirements are. iForm Builder never really evolved in that state. We have the very basic output, which most of you have seen before. And outside of adding a logo or a little bit of CSS, there really wasn't room for customization. So we realized that wasn't enough and set out to find a way to solve this, this document problem. So through custom documents, we're able to actually have a full-blown document builder. I won't take you through that, but you can see that we're able to really just create new document templates. These can either be PDF or Word, or we can even start with blank HTML template and really design whatever we need. In addition to actually producing that document, we realized that there's a need for storage. And so we took that upon ourselves to tackle storage for any document that is created. You may need to hold on to it for many years. It may not be important until the regulator comes through and says, "Hey, show me this inspection from January 2017." This is 5 years down the road. How do you go pull that inspection effectively? So in addition to producing these document outputs, we're also tackling the storage and kind of being able to show this information if requested. by saving this as well inside of the Zerion infrastructure. So this screenshot is basically showing you all of the improved inspections that we've completed. We're able to search that by document name. And document name is actually interesting because it's derived from the data that the user fills out in the field. So this is actually the location of the address we did the inspection. You'll see that there's the ability to produce many different outputs. So we have basically 122 Main Street is done as a picture, is done as a PDF, is done as XML, and done as HTML. So we have a lot of flexibility in the document output. It doesn't have to be PDF. It doesn't have to be Word, as you can see from these examples. If you do need to download locally for yourself, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's a download option as well as a trash can. So if anything is no longer needed or you want to do some cleanup, you're able to do that as well. Just to give you an idea of what this looks like, this is actually very much what you've seen with the iForm output in the past, but the main thing is the ability to actually produce any custom output that you like. For demonstration purposes, we use the iForm template just to bring this together. And if I wanted to, and we could certainly take the time to move the picture to the right-hand side and maybe bring the data down alongside of it so that we emphasize the picture, or even just greatly control the size of this image window that's being displayed. So that's the high-level overview for documents, and I'm about to transition into the permission structure that we've emphasized as well. Are there any questions, Barrett, before I move forward?
Yeah, there's one about documents here, Tony. If someone were to have a document already created and it's like one of the Adobe fillable PDFs, could they upload that and then just match the fields from iForm Builder in that document and be able to submit that? There are a lot of organizations who do have standard forms that they have to use, and they don't want to have to reinvent it here, but instead use the requirement.
Yeah, great question. And there is support for fillable PDFs. So if you have an existing design or template that you have to work with, you can absolutely start there and then do a field mapping exercise to just bring the form data into the proper place in the document. The reason I show this output is that if that's not the case and you truly want to build something to match custom needs, then we have that capability too.
There was one last question that just came in, and I want to make sure we talk about it before we go on.
Okay.
This individual says, we currently use WebMerge. Is this essentially a one-for-one replacement of WebMerge?
This is a partnership with WebMerge. So all the functionality and the things that you're used to seeing from WebMerge, we have basically at our fingertips as well. So we're leveraging WebMerge for this document solution. Any existing templates or things that you put together will easily transfer over, and will be a pretty seamless experience. So yeah, diving into permissions, this is something that has been cooking on the community and I think internally for many years. The idea that we have only a few roles seems to work okay until it doesn't. So we said, well, let's not box people in anymore. Let's not build additional roles. Let's really just gut roles and permissions all together and start from scratch. And so we really tried to emphasize flexibility more than anything else. And the screenshot that I'm showing you now comes from our identity management software. This is where you actually will build user roles. So everything shown on the screen here is effectively a user role. Myself may actually have many roles assigned to me. Just like in real life, most of us don't wear just one hat, we wear many hats. So I may be the inspection builder, but I may also be the admin, and I may also be the report admin. Some of these things actually have overlapping permissions, and that's okay. We're able to figure that out and basically give the user whatever they need. But the point I want to emphasize here is that we wanted to tackle permissions at such a fine level that there shouldn't be much that we can't tackle moving forward. So with that explanation, these are all different roles or policies, as we refer to them, that have been created, and they can be simple. Here's a simple policy for managing users. So if really all you need to do within your organization is create new users, edit their information, give them passwords or change passwords, your permission or your policy may look something like this. And you may say, hey, that's crazy. That looks like a bunch of gobbledygook code. Nobody knows what that means. And that is true. I mean, this is meant to show you the guts of how flexible and how detailed this gets, just so you understand it's not a set of predefined roles. This is truly allowing for custom role creation to happen. And we do have an interface to basically produce this permission or this policy. This is just really the output. And I wanted to show this that way that maybe helped make it clear that there's a lot of detail that can be put into it. You'll see that a little bit better with this next screenshot. So this is actually a different policy that I was showing from the first page. And it's mostly, there's more stuff here because I actually want the user to be able to do less. I want them to be able to work in all the different softwares, but I want them to be able to only do certain things within those softwares. So in this case, for the identity management, I only actually want them to be able to list certain things and update certain things. They actually cannot create or they cannot delete. So this is just allowing me, like I mentioned earlier, to build something very specific to the user needs that I have. It's not another sandbox role that I have to just check a box and live with whatever Zerion Software has decided that is. I'm able to build this to match the needs that I have. So I know this is a lot to take in. Don't get worried about the code and all that fun stuff. Like I said, there's an interface to put all this together and make it nice and simple. But the point here is to show how detailed this can be. And there's a lot more coming down this, this track this year as we expand the permission structure over to all the different softwares that we build. The last piece I'm going to walk through is going to be interface. So are there any questions, Barrett, on granular permissions before I jump over?
This question's asking about the different policies. And they're wondering if the different permissions and policies that you create in ZIM, are those going to replace the roles within iForm Builder, or how do those play together?
Great question. The main thing is that Zerion Identity Management will end up being a central identity as well as access management tool, meaning that it will own what a user can do in every Zerion Software service. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be a transition period. So basically, to answer this as simply as I can, in the long run, user access will all be managed here. In the short run, there will be a transition where certain rights and permissions are granted here, and forms are still assigned through the iForm Builder side of things. So I hope that gives you a little bit to chew on without making it too confusing. In the long run, all of that will be owned and maintained by identity management.
Now, Tony, for individuals on this call who may have an iForm Builder dedicated database and are interested in looking into Zerion and using Zerion solutions with the data flow automation, the reports, and the documents, what can you tell them about what that experience would look like?
Sure. So basically, it could be one of two ways. Either there's a full migration. So we plan and execute a migration from iForm Builder into the Zerion suite. Otherwise, they can be used as complementary tools. So if we through conversations and planning, realize that it's not in the best interest to move everybody from iForm Builder, we can still leverage data flow automation, reports, and all these other fun things, without a full-blown migration. So we're able to work with you at any level. And I would say if there's more questions, definitely reach out to us, and we're happy to have a call around that. So the theme that you hopefully have picked up on is that the screenshots and everything that we've shown look and feel similar. And that is another emphasis for 2017 is actually to build a common interface and a common experience across all of Zerion's tools. So what you see here is basically the theme that you've seen through all the screenshots. We have a few services or software showing right here. This will continue to grow over time, but the expectation is that they all look and feel the same, meaning the buttons are positioned in pretty much the same place, the search bars in the same place, side menu navigation and all those things feel the same. And so I just want to walk you through a few screenshots just to show you, we've seen this one before. This is the usage statistics menu within data flow automation. And you'll notice that the sidebar, is pretty neatly organized, as well as this common header. And if we take you through the ZIM, or the identity management software, you'll notice the same thing, that the header is basically the same, as well as the side menu and this right-hand screen as well. And we step into the form builder. This is again, using this common header. You have the top menu, and basically, the side menu for the form builder is all the different widgets. But again, the look and feel and the layout is coordinated rather than very distinct. Same thing goes for the the data views that you're used to experiencing. The common header here. There's really not a need for a left-hand menu in this one, so you'll find that one is absent. And so before I jump into the last piece and we start taking some questions, the thing that you should expect from Zerion moving forward in 2017 and beyond is to try to make sure that as we expand, that it's done so in a coordinated and cohesive state. So, emphasizing, consistent user experience, consistent interface, naming, conventions, and all those things is something that we're really emphasizing, so that as we expand and we tackle more problems, we try to keep the learning curve as flat as possible. We know that some of these things will take more background experience, or maybe some coding knowledge in order to really maximize them. But just like we've done for iForm Builder in the past, we'll put together great examples and hopefully try to have these training sessions and webinars and other public-facing experiences to really spread that knowledge. So the last piece that I want to touch on before we get into the closing side of this presentation is the roadmap. So we just spent the last 45 minutes talking about the roadmap, or the future of 2017. Another main thing for us to focus on is actually bringing a roadmap to the public. So this screenshot is really just something that we use internally to try to track where things are, in order to see what's progressing, what's active, what's kind of sitting in an idle state. And this has been really helpful as our team has grown, to know where things are and to be able to just quickly get a glance at, okay, this one feature I've been waiting for is actually progressing and it's almost done. So there's an emphasis and I think a need in order to bring this to the public view. So another thing you can expect from us in 2017 is to be able to publish and maintain a roadmap which shows the new product advancements, as well as features or other big things that we're working on, and kind of the state that they're in. Not everything will move forward, and we want everyone to be aware of that, so it doesn't feel like it's neglected, but it's just a matter of, hey, there's these other things cooking, and you can see them progressing. We haven't lost these ideas or these thoughts that you have. They're able to be, shine a light on them. That way, they're not. You don't feel like they're lost or they're just swept under the rug. So producing a roadmap is a big thing, not only internally, but we believe externally, and it's something we're looking forward to sharing with all of you in the near future. The thing I want to close with is actually shaping the future of Zerion Web Services, and this has been a theme of all the webinars I've gone through the past few years. Is basically, how do we get ideas, or how do we actually, determine what the future holds? And that comes from the community. Again, the reason we built the data flow automation and, integrated with Zoho and WebMerge to take care of documents and dashboards is because, we heard the problems that you guys were running into. Spending time to work through projects or problems, really gives us more insight into what we should do versus what we think we should do. We could all sit in a room and just come up with ideas that, maybe are cool, but don't actually solve problems. And, that doesn't really do us any good, because we didn't take care of who we needed to take care of. So what I want to, bring to the forefront again is that, the community at large, those on the call, those not on the call, are really helpful in help shaping the future. We also do a little bit of forward projecting ourselves. But just listening to the problems that you face and trying to really understand is key to shaping the future of Zerion Software and all the new features and services that we'll build. So please do participate in the community discussions. Share ideas with us. If you've had one-on-one conversations with members of the team, that's great. Sometimes those things get lost, or they're just forgotten or overlooked. So be sure to participate in the community discussions and bring those great ideas to the surface so that we're able to act on those. Barrett, I think that pretty much wraps up the summary presentation. Do you want to just take over and talk about the support resources that we have?
So on this slide, and when you get the presentation, these are all links to the different resources we have. We just want to make sure that you are aware of all the different support options available to you and the different resources that you have access to. So like if this is the first webinar you've attended, we record every webinar that we've had, so you can always listen to any past webinars about releases or just form building. And as I mentioned, we have another form building webinar happening in a few weeks' time, so you can sign up and participate in that one as well. I urge you to go into the Customer Success Center and create an account in the Customer Success Center. So Tony talked about how it's important to be involved in the community. By creating an account in the Customer Success Center, then you can comment and put in feature requests. I know that Joe, the head of our Customer Success Center, is planning another feature frenzy, and so be aware of that and get your votes in once that is live. Additionally, with becoming a member of our Customer Success Center, you can actually you can follow release notes and follow different conversations and articles, so that way you get notified if there's ever been an update. This is especially helpful with our release notes section, so that you receive an email before the release comes out letting you know what's going to be a part of that release. Additional support tools we have are the Form Builder certification, which we talked about at the beginning of today's call, project services, and our ebooks. So if you're looking for a nice little book to read on a quick flight, then download some of the ebooks to see what other customers have done, as well as guides on our best practices. If anyone has any additional questions, this is Tony's email, but for a few of you, I have made a note, and Tony or I will reach out to you to respond and maybe even set up a call to talk about some of your requirements. But Tony, thank you for your time and your effort in going through this with everybody, and everyone on the call, thank you for your time and effort and great questions. And that's it from me. Tony, do you have anything else?
No, I just appreciate everybody's time this morning, this evening, or this afternoon, wherever you are. And yeah, as Barrett mentioned, definitely reach out and let us know what questions you have. Thanks again.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.